Hey guys, welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and appreciate you guys tuning in for today's video. Guys, I fish a lot in the wintertime. You know, I live here in the Missouri Ozarks and I grew up here, and we have clear water and rocky lakes, and it's usually pretty decent wintertime fishing. So I've had a chance to spend a lot of winters fishing, probably more than most people in the country over the last 50 years. And I've got 5 baits here that I picked out that I catch most of my bass on during the month of January. And January is a little bit different than anything else because it's usually when you have the coldest water of the year. It's like if your water temperatures max out at 40 or 45 or 50, this is when it usually happens. And the bass, they have a very certain, very predictable way that they set up on structures, and they have a very, very limited amount of baits that they bite in January. I'm gonna guess that January probably has the fewest lure categories that actually work. So we're gonna go over the ones that I catch, most of my fish on January, and we'll talk a little bit about how to fish them in the areas. So I think it's gonna be a really informative video here. Also, guys, just a quick invitation. If you haven't had a chance, I'd like to invite everybody to please hit that subscribe button, or please consider hitting that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. Free and easy to do so, man. If you like the content, that's a good way to move it out in the YouTube algorithm. You know, we lose viewers, guys. I lose viewers every single day because I usually make some people mad by telling them I don't like a certain knot or talking about forward-facing sonar. So thank you very much for everybody that's subscribed. And also, guys, a quick reminder, we do have channel memberships. And as a channel member with Intuitive Angling, you get my personal email address, and you can email me anytime you want to. I'll be happy to answer your fishing questions. We'll have a little talk back and forth. You get private videos that are not seen by the public. We got memberships starting at $4.99 a month. All you have to do is go to my YouTube homepage, hit the little join button there for info, so appreciate that. Okay, one of the big things about bass fishing is when I first started fishing, back in the 70s, people didn't fish much at wintertime. And the wintertime fishermen that I did know that went, the only thing they did is they fished those little black marabou hair jigs and maybe a jig and spoon. And they always said the fishing was tough. It was only when the advent of the suspending jerkbait came along that wintertime fishing started to have a different type of a following. And the suspending jerkbait pretty much changed wintertime bass fishing into one of the better times of the year. And I tell you one thing, guys, this is about catching bass throughout the course of a year. You got winter, spring, summer, fall. I rank spring as the #1 time to fish, and I rank winter the second best time to fish. I put summer probably the toughest time and fall the third toughest time, but I think that winter is probably the second best time to fish if you know what you're doing and you use the right technique. So let's go over my favorite baits for fishing in January, wintertime. Okay, the first one, this isn't necessarily a bait I like to fish, but it's very productive in January, and that's the old Alabama rig, and specifically a small Alabama rig. This is a downsized model here. The wires on the thing are only about 5 inches long. I've got small swim baits on them, little, 2.5 inch or 2 1/4 inch Kitex on it, little blades here. A downsized Finesse Alabama rig is a deadly wintertime bait. And one of the things you'll find out about an Alabama rig and the baits we're talking about is the January baits are very conditional in terms of the weather that you have or the type of conditions you have. And an Alabama rig is a really good bait in the month of January if you have a cloudy, windy day. That type of condition is where your Alabama rig is gonna really, really shine. These other baits that I'm talking about, not so much. They're better in a little bit brighter conditions. But anytime that I have a day that say the temperature is like normal or above normal, and you have a south wind, maybe like it's a little bit warmer than normal. You get one of those days that's normal or 5 degrees above normal. You got a cloudy day, you got a south wind. I pull out the Alabama rig. And on this light one, guys, usually I fish it on my flipping stick, 15-pound test Seaguard Visex fluorocarbon, and I just fish it on, main lake and secondary points and down bluff banks. Cast it out there, try to keep it close to the bottom. It works in a wide range of water clarities. I can catch them on an Alabama rig in 2 foot of visibility or 10 foot of visibility. If the water visibility is a little bit more off color, like 2 to 3 foot visibility, I'll try to fish it in 10 foot of water or so. And if it's clean, like the water's real clear, I may fish it down to 20, 25 foot. But I'm always trying to keep this Alabama rig about 1 foot or 2, maybe 3 feet off the bottom in the wintertime. Okay, the next one along that, and if you gave me one bait, say, Randy, you can have one lure to fish in the wintertime, it would be this. And you've heard me talk about it, guys. This is the Megabass X Nanahan +2 Finesse jerkbait. And also, guys, I'll link each one of these lures in my tackle warehouse link in this video description, including the Nanahan, if you guys would like to pick some up using that link here. But this is a Finesse jerkbait, guys. It's only a little over 2 inches long. It's got a big lip on it. It'll get down over 10 foot deep on 6-pound line. And bass love, just like the small swim baits we talked about there, bass love a downsized lure in the wintertime. And the little X Nanahan is one of the smallest jerk baits that Megabass makes, but it still gets down deep. So I just fish it 6-pound test, Seaguar and VizX, maybe 4-pound test if it's not much cover around. And my whole thing with this is points. I just run secondary points and main lake points with it. Ideally, I want to have water visibility in that 3 to 5 foot zone, and I usually put my boat like in 20 to 25 foot of water, and I'll just fan cast those points, work it nice and slow in and around those points. Guys, this thing is freaking deadly. You guys that have been with the channel with me, you've heard me talk about this a lot. I can't reiterate how good this bait is right here for wintertime bass. Excuse me. Okay, the next one. Now, this is going to be something for areas that have a little bit more, not warmer water, but you don't have the super cold water. Here in Missouri, we'll get water temperatures in the upper 30s, but in your part of the country, let's say you're from eastern Kentucky or Tennessee, you may have water temperatures that bottom out around 50. If you have water temperatures in the wintertime that bottom out around 50, guys, you can't beat a finesse jig. You heard Mikey Balls talking about my Blaukat Power Finesse jig a couple weeks ago in his video. Little Power Finesse jig, I'll have this linked in my video description. Living rubber frog hair skirt, some type of a brown and purple or green and purple Zoom Super Chunk Junior on it, and fish this thing on bluff banks or steep rocky banks if you have water visibility of less than 3 foot, 3 foot or less. So I'll get on a bluff bank and I'll just cast that jig maybe to 5 foot of water and work it down maybe into 15 foot. The same on riprap bank. Bass love to live on riprap in the wintertime if you have deep water off that riprap. And I'll fish my finesse jig on the riprap too. But really good water visibility around 3 foot is some type of brown purple finesse jig there. Okay, the next one, this is a staple, and it's sort of like very similar to the jerkbait and the A-rig. It's just a small, straight 3-inch swim bait. This is the Megabass Spark Shad. Kitech works good too, like a 2 1/4 inch Kitech. I've got the Megabass Okashir jig head on it, and I do use the core tackle hover rig head a lot, but the hover rig head, I want it more when I'm concerned about the bait spiraling down. I want that hover rig head for action, but I like the Okashir jig head when I'm reeling it straight through the water column like I do in the wintertime. So I'll take the 1/8 ounce Okashir head, Megabass Spark Shad. Same type of deal, guys. I'll get on those points just like I'm fishing the A-rig and the jerk bait, but on the swim bait, I throw it out and I let it go to the bottom. And once it gets to the bottom, I'm slowly cranking this thing just along the bottom. And it's like, I want it to be like almost touching the bottom. And so I'll reel it around the bottom. If I can't feel anything, I'll let it drop and hit the bottom until I feel the bottom. Then I'll bring it up maybe an inch or two. And I'm just keeping it like an inch or two off the bottom on those points. And guys, they love this, especially on a bright, sunny type day. The jerkbait and the A-rig are gonna work really good on a little bit more, cloudy, windy type days, but the little swim bait is gonna be good, on the brighter days. Okay, and finally, this is another wintertime deal for a little bit more off-colored water in the winter. Megabass Flap Slap. Flat-sided crankbait. This is runs about 4 or 5 foot deep. This is gonna be really good. Again, if you have water visibilities of 3 feet or less. So a prime example is Grand Lake in Oklahoma. It's a pretty decent wintertime lake, even though it's an off-colored lake. Got about probably 2 to 3 foot of visibility at Grand Lake in certain parts of the lake. This would be perfect for it. Flap Slap is gonna be cranked on riprap and rocky banks, 8-pound test Seaguar and VizX line. I'll definitely usually put a suspend strip on the belly so it doesn't float up. I want it to stay down low. Also, if you have a lake like your TVA lakes or Texas lakes that have submergent grass, cranking a flap slap in the wintertime over that submergent grass is a really good way to catch them. So anyway, guys, that's five baits that I throw all January. Like I said, I probably fish as much as anybody in the country in January. I catch a bunch of fish on these 5, so hope it helps you out. We'll talk later.